Hello and welcome, car lovers, history fans, and anyone who's ever wanted to drive a tank through their neighbor's fence. Today we're going on a wild ride through history, exploring how war machines have changed. We'll cover everything from rickety old chariots to the high-tech drones flying around battlefields today. We're talking horsepower, firepower, and everything in between. We'll look at the brilliant, the crazy, and the downright brutal inventions that have changed war forever. And believe me, there have been some really interesting ones over the years. So buckle up, grab your tools, and get ready for war machines from ancient chariots to modern tanks. Now, some of you might think chariots are a bit, well, old, but back then these things were like the Ferraris of the battlefield. Imagine a time before paved roads, before traffic lights, even before the wheel was properly invented. Then someone gets the bright idea to put wheels on a cart, attach some horses, and bam! Instant battlefield advantage. You could outmaneuver your enemies, attack from the side, and make them run away faster than you can say chariot race. Of course, chariots weren't just about speed, they were also moving platforms for archers and javelin throwers, making war a deadly drive-by shooting game. And let's not forget how scary they were. Imagine you're a soldier, minding your own business, when suddenly a bunch of chariots comes charging at you. Talk about a bad day at work. Now let's look closely at these ancient speed demons. Chariots were basically lightweight, two-wheeled vehicles, usually pulled by 2 to 4 horses. They were surprisingly easy to move, able to make sharp turns and speed up quickly, making them perfect for quick attacks. The design varied, depending on who made them, but they all had some things in common. There was a platform for the driver and warrior, often with a shield for protection. And of course, every chariot needed strong wheels and axles. The Egyptians, the Greeks, the Romans, the Assyrians, they all had their own versions of the chariot, each made for their specific needs. Some were designed for speed, others for scaring the enemy, and some were even used as moving command centers. But no matter the design, one thing was always true. The chariot changed everything. It revolutionized war, giving those who used it best a big advantage. Fast forward a few hundred years and we enter the time of castles, knights, and some of the most impressive siege weapons ever made. And believe me, when it comes to medieval mayhem, nothing says I'm serious like a trebuchet. Forget catapults and ballistas. The trebuchet was the king of castle destroyers. This clever machine used a huge counterweight to throw projectiles at enemy walls, turning stone into rubble and making defenders run for their lives. We're not talking about throwing little stones here, folks. Trebuchets could launch enormous rocks, some weighing over a ton, with incredible power and accuracy. Imagine how scary it would be to see one of those things flying towards your castle. It's enough to make even the bravest knight scared. Now, you might think that launching giant rocks is a simple way of fighting a war, and you'd be right, it is. But don't let that fool you. The trebuchet was a marvel of medieval engineering. It used the principles of leverage and gravity to create a devastating effect, turning potential energy into kinetic energy with brutal efficiency. Think of it as a giant medieval slingshot, only much, much stronger. The key to the trebuchet's power was its massive counterweight, often filled with stone, sand, or even lead. When released, the weight would swing down, pulling on a long arm and launching the projectile with incredible force. And we're not just talking about brute strength here. Some trebuchets were so well designed that they could hit targets with surprising accuracy, making them a terrifying weapon in the right hands. The year is 1916, World War I. A real mess it was, with millions stuck in trenches getting nowhere. Machine guns, artillery, barbed wire, you name it, it was a nightmare. Something had to change. And then, like a sudden good idea, someone thought of the tank. Now, these weren't the sleek, powerful tanks you see today. No, these were slow, clunky metal boxes, about as subtle as a hippo in a bathtub. But they were effective. They could drive over trenches, ignore machine gun fire, and scare the enemy. The Mark I tank was the start of something big. Now, these early tanks had their problems. They broke down a lot, and the conditions inside, let's just say it wasn't comfortable, but despite their flaws, these tanks changed everything. They broke the stalemate of trench warfare, gave the Allies a boost, and led to the development of the modern tank. Imagine the terror of a German soldier hiding in his trench when he sees this metal monster coming at him, shooting. The tank had arrived, and war would never be the same. Okay, World War II, things had gotten worse, hadn't they? No more sitting in trenches. This time it was aerial combat, dogfights, and a whole new type of machine, the fighter plane. Now the Spitfire, a beautiful plane it was, sleek, fast, agile, like a super-fast Falcon. The Germans had their Messerschmitt Bf 109, a tough opponent no doubt, but the Spitfire was in a league of its own. The Battle of Britain was the testing ground. Spitfires and Hurricanes, Britain's last line of defense against the German Luftwaffe. And they put up a good fight. These pilots were a different breed. Up in the clouds, risking their lives, locked in a deadly dance of speed and skill. They were the best of the best, the knights of the sky, and they were all that stood between Britain and defeat. Talk about pressure. Okay, let's talk about the Kalashnikov, the AK-47, a rifle so famous everyone knows it. But what's the story behind this common weapon? Well, picture this. 1947, the Cold War is starting and the Soviets need a new rifle. Something simple, reliable, something that can be made quickly. Enter Mikhail Kalashnikov, a young tank mechanic who liked to build things. Kalashnikov's creation, the AK-47, was brilliantly simple. It was cheap to make, easy to use, and very reliable, even in tough conditions. You could drop it in mud, bury it in sand, use it as a hammer, and it would still shoot. It wasn't the most accurate rifle, but it made up for its lack of accuracy with pure firepower. The AK-47 became the weapon of choice for armies, rebels, and anyone who wanted a dependable gun. It changed everything, no doubt about it. Okay, you've seen those old tanks the British used in World War I. Now let's talk about a real tank. The Americans finally built a proper tank in the 1980s. They called it the Abrams. This thing is like a mix between a muscle car and a tank. It has a huge engine and it's fast. It has a giant 120 mm cannon. One shot from this thing and you're in big trouble. And the armor? It's made with depleted uranium. It's so strong a lead brick looks like a sponge cake next to it. They first used this beast in Desert Storm, and let's just say the enemy didn't know what hit them. It was like a hot knife through butter. And the best part is, this tank is still being used today. They've upgraded it so many times, it's practically got all the latest technology. The Abrams is still the best tank in the world. Everyone else is just trying to catch up. The Abrams is a testament to American engineering, and it will be a long time before anything replaces it. Now, I know what you're thinking, drones, it's all a bit like Big Brother, isn't it? Well, yes, maybe, but if you're not doing anything wrong, you've got nothing to worry about, right? Besides, these things are changing war. Forget fighter planes and dogfights. These days it's all about unmanned aerial vehicles, or UAVs if you like abbreviations. They're basically remote-controlled planes with lots of firepower. And the best part is you don't have to risk any pilots. Just give a joystick to someone in a bunker and they can attack from anywhere in the world. But drones aren't just about blowing things up. They're actually quite useful. They can do reconnaissance, surveillance, even deliver packages. They've got incredibly powerful cameras. It's like having your own personal spy camera. Only this one can fire missiles. Now, I'm not saying it's all good. There are ethical questions, and the technology is still being developed. But drones are here to stay. They're changing how wars are fought, and they're only going to become more common. So if you're planning a war anytime soon, my advice is this: get lots of drones, because the future of warfare is unmanned. Okay, let's talk about something truly stealthy. I'm talking about the stealth bomber, a plane so sneaky it makes sneaking a late-night snack look like a special forces operation. Imagine this. You're watching radar, bored. Suddenly, a blip. But before you can react, boom, that's the stealth bomber. It's the ultimate surprise weapon. Now, I can't tell you exactly how it works. It's top secret, but whatever the reason, it works. This thing can fly undetected, drop its bombs, and be halfway home before the enemy knows what happened. It's like a magician with wings. Now you see it, well, you're probably in trouble. The Americans have been leading the way in stealth technology. They've got the B-2 Spirit, a flying wing that looks like it came from a sci-fi movie. It's so expensive they only built 21 of them. But one of these is worth a lot. And it's not just the Americans. Other countries are trying to develop their own stealth bombers. Because these days, if you're not stealthy, you're not very useful. Now, some people say stealth bombers are a waste of money. Well, to them I say this. Imagine facing an enemy with a whole fleet of these things. Suddenly that price tag doesn't seem so high. The stealth bomber has changed everything. It's a ghost in the machine. Okay, you've seen tanks, you've seen planes, but have you seen them together? Enter the aircraft carrier. These huge ships are basically floating air bases. Now, some might call them easy targets, but I call them floating fortresses. These things are massive and they carry lots of planes. Fighter jets, bombers, helicopters, everything. It's like a moving air show. Imagine this, you're a sailor on a small ship and enemy bombers are coming. You're about to be defeated. But wait, an aircraft carrier appears and it's brought help. Fighter jets take off, ready to fight. Now that's a grand entrance. Now, aircraft carriers aren't just about brute force. They're about showing power. It's like parking a tank on your neighbor's lawn. Except the lawn is the ocean, and the tank can launch jets. Having an aircraft carrier nearby means you can use your air power anywhere. Need to help troops on the ground? No problem, just send some jets from your floating airbase. Want to scare the enemy? Just park an aircraft carrier near them. They're not just for war, though. They can be used for humanitarian aid and disaster relief. Of course, all this technology is expensive. Now, we've talked about chariots, tanks, planes, but what about the future of war? Well, the future is autonomous. We're talking drones, robots, machines that can fight wars without humans. Now, some people might find this scary, but you can't deny the advantages. Imagine a war where no soldiers die. A war fought entirely by machines. It sounds like science fiction, but it's closer than you think. Drones are already being used a lot, and it's not just drones. We're talking about self-driving tanks, bomb disposal robots, even swarms of small drones. Now, I know what you're thinking. Isn't this dangerous, giving machines the power to kill? And you'd be right to be worried. There are serious ethical questions, but there's also potential. Autonomous war machines could save lives by removing human soldiers from danger. They could also make war more accurate, reducing civilian deaths. Of course, there's always the risk of something going wrong, a computer glitch, a hacker, and suddenly you've got a rogue robot army. It's scary, but it's a possibility we need to think about. The future of war is here, and it will be interesting and scary to see what happens. So, there you have it. A quick look at war machines, from old chariots to the advanced autonomous weapons of the future. It's been quite a ride. We've seen how technology has changed war, and one thing's for sure, things are changing fast. Who knows what kind of war machines we'll invent next? Now, I want to hear your thoughts. Which of these machines is your favorite? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos. Until next time, goodbye.